On September 11, 2001, a terror attack occurred in America, unlike anything seen before in history. We discussed in Part 1 the person behind these attacks, Osama, and why he felt the need to target America. In this video, we will learn how Osama planned this attack and how it was executed. In 1996, Osama settled in Afghanistan and began launching a series of attacks on America. However, he didn't attack directly. Instead, he targeted American bases and military forces in other countries, as well as hotels. Those who had previously helped Osama continued to support him, including the ISI of Pakistan, which also funded him. With this support, Osama established terrorist camps in Afghanistan, where he trained more people to become terrorists. Gradually, he also began planning a direct attack on America. Initially, he planned to hijack 6 flights in America and crash them. He made thorough preparations for this, but the plan was exposed at the last minute and failed. As a result, America's attention turned towards Osama. The U.S. president ordered that Osama be captured at any cost, prompting the CIA to get involved. The CIA started capturing anyone suspected of being connected to Osama. Many of these individuals were found to have ties with Osama. The CIA discovered several terrorist organizations associated with Osama in various parts of America and even found his terrorist organizations in Afghanistan. The CIA considered going there to capture Osama, but the plan failed, and Osama escaped at the last moment. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia also seized Osama's assets, which fueled his anger towards the Saudi monarchy and America even more. From that point onwards, he began issuing warnings to America through interviews and videotapes, threatening that America should leave the Middle East immediately, or he would attack. Until then, Osama's target had been the American military, but from that time onwards, his target also extended to American civilians. Around that time, American intelligence received information that Osama was planning a major terrorist attack on America. However, it became very difficult for the CIA to uncover these plans. By then, many of Osama's men had already entered America and started their work there. In 1996, an important meeting took place at Osama's camp in Afghanistan. A key figure met Osama, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He had planned a major terrorist attack on America a year earlier, but that plan had failed. Like Osama, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed also harbored animosity towards America and dreamed of attacking it. He had been trying for a long time to carry out an attack on America and finally sought Osama's help to realize his dream. He proposed a plan to Osama, which was to hijack 4 airplanes and crash them into prominent locations in America. Their first target on the list was the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center symbolized America's power and prosperity. This World Trade Center is also known as the Twin Towers, as it consists of 2 towers, the North Tower and the South Tower. They wanted to destroy this symbol of America's pride and power. The second target was the Pentagon, which is America's defense headquarters. This headquarters is located on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. They planned to attack here and strike a blow to the American military. The third target was also in Washington, D.C., though the exact target in Washington was unclear. However, it is believed that their target could have been the U.S. Capitol or the White House. The U.S. Capitol is like a parliament, and the White House is the residence of the American president. One of these two could have been their target. To carry out this entire operation, they needed to hijack 4 flights. Osama liked this plan very much, and so, from 1996 onwards, all efforts began to implement it. For this purpose, Osama brought in 20 terrorists from Saudi Arabia and Egypt. He selected 5 hijackers for each flight and planned for them to carry out suicide attacks. These individuals started traveling to different countries and began learning about flying planes. In 1999, Osama gave the green light to this plan, and in January 2000, 20 hijackers entered America. Osama appointed a man named Mohammed Atta as the leader of this attack. These 20 people began receiving flight training in America and started learning about various types of planes by attending different institutions. They began their operation without raising any suspicion, using code names and languages, and kept Osama informed of their progress. They even assigned code names to the targets in America. The World Trade Center was given the code name Faculty of Town Planning. The U.S. Capitol was called Faculty of Law, and the Pentagon was named Faculty of Fine Arts. They kept Osama updated with information using these code names. Executing such an operation on America was not an easy task. It was very difficult to carry this out without catching the attention of American intelligence. Therefore, Osama planned very meticulously. Despite this, American intelligence suspected that Osama was planning something big. U.S. intelligence even reported to the president that Osama was trying to hijack flights in America. Several intelligence agencies warned America that a major terrorist attack was imminent, but America took it lightly, never expecting such a massive attack to occur. On the other hand, everything was ready for the attack, and even the date was fixed. That date was September 11th, 2001. Finally, that day arrived. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 20 hijackers arrived at 3 airports in the United States. However, no one knew that they were hijackers. 19 of them managed to board the flights undetected by security, but one was stopped by airport security officials due to a fake passport. Thus, 19 hijackers boarded 4 flights. That morning, American Airlines Flight 11 took off from Boston International Airport, heading to Los Angeles. There were 92 people on board, 81 passengers and 11 crew members. However, 15 minutes after the flight took off, it was revealed that 5 of the 81 passengers were terrorists and hijackers. These 5 terrorists hijacked the plane shortly after takeoff, seizing control from the pilots. Among them was Atta, the head of the operation, who turned the plane toward New York. The hijackers' target was the World Trade Center. A few minutes later, this flight crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, causing a massive explosion. Everyone present was in shock, not understanding what had happened. Huge flames and smoke were pouring out of the North Tower. The reality of the situation began to surface. Unknowingly, many people recorded videos at that time, capturing the crash into the tower. Initially, everyone thought it was an accident, but questions arose about how such a large tower could have been missed by the pilot. This crash occurred at 8:46 a.m. On that day, U.S. President George Bush was on a tour in a Florida school. He was on his way there when the crash happened, and his officers received the information. The officers informed the president, who was shocked upon hearing the news. He suggested that the pilot might have had a heart attack, leading to the crash. The entire United States was in turmoil, with everyone glued to their televisions. All media channels began live coverage. A few minutes after the first crash, U.S. officials learned that another flight had been hijacked, United Airlines Flight 175. The hijackers also redirected this flight toward New York, crashing it into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This second crash occurred 17 minutes after the North Tower crash. People watching on TV were in shock as massive flames erupted from both towers. At that moment, U.S. officials realized that this was not an accident, but an attack. At the time, President Bush was in a classroom at the Florida school. One of his officers approached him and informed him that America was under attack. However, the president did not immediately respond and remained in the classroom for another 7 minutes. During those 7 minutes, the news of the attack spread worldwide. The president gave no orders or took any action for those 7 minutes. A few minutes after the second crash, it was revealed that 2 more flights had been hijacked. This news shocked the entire world. Never before had 4 planes been hijacked simultaneously, nor had such a massive terrorist attack occurred in U.S. history. The other 2 flights were American Airlines Flight 77, which was traveling from Washington to Los Angeles with 5 hijackers on board, and U.S. Airways Flight 93, which was traveling from New Jersey to California with 4 hijackers on board. The hijackers took control of these two flights as well, redirecting them toward Washington, D.C. Flight 77's target was the Pentagon, and Flight 93's target was either the U.S. Capitol or the White House. A few minutes later, Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, marking the third crash in America that day. Immediately after the third crash, the entire U.S. airspace was shut down, with orders given to all pilots to land their planes immediately. The third crash occurred at 9:37 a.m., damaging a significant portion of the Pentagon. A few minutes later, massive flames erupted due to airplane fuel from the second crash, severely damaging the South Tower's structure. At 9:59 a.m., the entire South Tower collapsed. At that moment, everyone began to think about the fourth hijacked flight, United Airlines Flight 93. There was widespread fear about where this flight might crash. This flight was heading toward Washington, D.C. At that time, some passengers on the flight turned on their mobile phones and began receiving calls and messages from their family members. They were informed about what was happening in America, and the passengers were shocked. They quickly realized that their flight had also been hijacked, and that, like the other flights, this one was also likely to crash. However, unlike the other passengers, these passengers did not sit silently. They decided to fight back against the hijackers. A struggle ensued on the plane, creating chaos. After that, not much information is available about what happened, but a few minutes later, the plane crashed in a field. This marked the fourth crash. Due to the passengers' efforts, the flight did not reach Washington, D.C. or crash into any building. Although all the passengers on this flight died, they saved the lives of many others by preventing the plane from crashing into a building. At precisely 10:28 a.m., the North Tower of the World Trade Center also collapsed. Within a matter of hours, the World Trade Center was reduced to rubble. These four plane crashes, along with the destruction of the World Trade Center and the damage to the Pentagon, resulted in the deaths of thousands of people. Many rescue officers and firefighters also lost their lives while trying to save others in the World Trade Center as the towers collapsed. In total, around 3,000 people died, and nearly 6,000 were injured in these attacks. After these attacks, the U.S. suspected Osama bin Laden, but Osama initially released statements claiming he knew nothing about it. However, 3 years later, in 2004, during the U.S. elections, a videotape of Osama bin Laden surfaced, in which he admitted to being behind these attacks. He mentioned that he carried out these attacks because America was interfering in the Middle East. He cited many other reasons in the tape as well. However, using these reasons to justify the killing of 3,000 innocent people was a heinous act. These attacks had a profound impact not only on America, but on the entire world. In the next part, we will explore how the world was impacted by these attacks and what happened afterward, including why America went to war in Afghanistan. The next part will also be very interesting, so be sure not to miss it.